Chapter 3. The Blade of Fire. Soon the blinking of the various colors started to slow down. Roja finally could see the word in those flashing properties. Generally they all were green physical enhancement, they were all mediocre, so they didn't attract him at all. The slashing gradually becomes slower and slower. Seeing that it will stop on a green attribute, Roja felt disappointed. However, Roja didn't expect that what seemed to stop on a green attribute suddenly flashed again, then it turned into a purple attribute. Then before he could see what was it, this purple attribute turned into countless stars circled in the air, then disappeared into the property bar. He got a rare attribute. Roja was really excited after seeing this scene. He thought that in the end he will only get a normal green attribute, but he didn't expect it to turn directly to purple, which made his heart delighted. At the next moment the property bar repaired. The second stage, the ancient sword of the soul plus O attribute. Attack power plus 40, power plus 10 special attribute. All things of this world, turn to ashes energy, 0/20. Roja's eyes almost popped out when he saw that. He stared at the property bar for a while. Isn't this? Looking at the sentence in the special attribute. Roja thought that he heard it somewhere before. Then he suddenly remembered. At this time Roja still wasn't sure if what he thought about was really it, so he focused on the special attribute after more description popped up. Special attribute, all things of this world, turn to ashes. Initial stage, sword attacks get additional damage. The first stage, active skill, Shikai, Rujin Jaka, not activated. The second stage, active skill, Bankai, Zanka no Tachi, not activated. This is, almost directly after seeing this his mind stirred. No wonder he felt so familiar with those words. All things of this world, turn to ashes. Isn't this the Soul Society's first captain, the Captain Commander Genryusai Shigekuni Yamamoto, who has the strongest Zanpakuto? The Shikai, Rujin Jaka, when used the temperature will rise to 6,000 degrees. It is as hot as the surface of the sun. The Bankai, Zanka no Tachi, when used the temperature will rise to 15 million degrees. This is the temperature of the core of the sun. This will dry all the water in the world and burn the world. Such a power is worthy to be called the strongest in the world, and such a sword is worthy to be called the strongest Zanpakuto. In contrast, this world's Admiral Akainu Magma Devil Fruit ability is like child play against Yamamoto. How could magma compare to the core of the sun? Just looking at those properties, Roja's mind was in fire. He could imagine a sea of flame swallowing the whole world. Roja couldn't restrain his heart and wanted to look at how to activate the Shikai, Rujin Jaka. The first stage, Shikai, Rujin Jaka. Activation requirements, the fifth phase of the soul of the sword. The second stage, Bankai, Zanka no Tachi. Activation requirements, get the Shikai to see the activation condition for the Bankai. After seeing those two-line, Roja's heart calmed down a little. Really not easy. I have to reach the fifth stage in order to use the Shikai, in other words it's need to quickly strengthen myself to the fifth level or even higher. Early next morning. A ray of dawn rising from the horizon as it filled the world with vitality. Roja excitement surged. He want to begin training as fast as possible so he can strengthen the sword of the soul. So, he got up early in a state of excitement. There wasn't any sense of fatigue. It seemed that because of the sword of the soul Roja's recovery is stronger than normal people. It was really magical. As long as it's the next day, no matter how tired he was, he will look new. That made Roja best suited to training. It's Garp. He said that today he will start training Roja, but now he is still sleeping. Roja was too lazy to wake him up. Well, even if he calls him, he will not wake up. Roja just walked out and began simple punching practice. This is the Marines' headquarter camp training method. Not anyone can learn the Rokushiki even in the Marineford camp. Well, he will need a strong physique to use it anyway. He was interested in Soru, the high-speed movement technique in the Rokushiki. It will help him greatly when fighting with a sword. As for a gun, he won't need one since he decided to use sword. So he won't need to learn gun tricks and so on. These two weapons will make who learn how to use them stronger. But Roja will train with Garp. As long as his strength isn't lacking, it won't matter. For the present Roja, he doesn't lack any practice method. So as long as he wants something, he probably will get it from Garp. Then all he need now is focus on training and get stronger as fast as possible and strengthen the sword of the soul. After exercising for about an hour, Roja's body was sweating all over. His shirt was soaked. So he stopped and breathed a sigh of relief. And now, Garp still didn't wake up. Roja's was helpless. For him to be able to sleep until now, while in this noise, well, it's probably impossible for him to wake up. So Roja thought about the property bar again, and the bar appeared before him. The second stage, the ancient sword of the soul plus O attribute. Attack power plus 4O, power plus 1O, special attribute. All things of this world turn to ashes. Sword attack have additional fire damage. Evolution condition isn't met. Energy 1/20th. In addition to the single point in energy, there isn't other change. Isn't the energy rising slower than before? It only added 1 point. After an hour of practice, the energy increased just by 1. Well, Roja wasn't that surprised. It seemed that he expected this. Then after thinking a little, Roja picked the sword on the table. One of the Nadaikaitsu, Honu no Suki. It's because this sword that he met the strengthening condition for the first stage, and also because of it Roja got the purple rare attribute. Screech of friction between the scabbard and the blade sounded. This is the first time he pulled the Honu no Suki out of its scabbard. Honu no Suki was slender and long. While the sunlight reflected on its surface, it emitted a bright luster. With the blade is slightly red, it looked that there is flames raging in the sword. Seems that with him he would be able to use Rujanjaka. Isn't this sword related to that attribute? This thought flashed in Roja's mind suddenly. He stood up and went to the center of the courtyard. Although Roja isn't a swordsman, but looking at the sun reflected on his edge, it made it exudes a hot aura. Thinking about the special attribute. Before the Bankai and the Shikai, there was the initial stage. That passive skill will let every attack have additional fire damage. Roja's eye slightly flashed with a trace of light. Let's see the attached fire damage effect. Roja looked at the sword in his hand, whispered this sentence, and gently lifted Honu no Suki. The next moment, the sword in his hand suddenly come down. In the process, Roja could feel some kind of power suddenly seeped out of his soul. Ah! Roja suddenly yells. When Roja's sword completed the swing motion. In the air suddenly there was a golden flame toward the direction Roja swung the sword. Then a bunch of debris from the courtyard fell down. The debris was instantly ignited. Raging flames rise to the sky, which turned the debris into black dust and gradually extinguished. Looking at this scene, Roja felt satisfaction. If this is just a normal flame, what will the flame of Rujanjaka do, or even zanka no tachi do? With this thought, Roja was extremely happy. End of Chapter 3. To be continued. Chapter 4. Taking a leave.